Hello and welcome to Edinburgh Business Stories. EBS is hosted by myself, Alex Richards of Umore, a video production studio based in Edinburgh and Bristol, and Alan Smith of Action Coach, providing business coaching throughout Edinburgh and the Lothians. If you aren't already, remember to subscribe, and I hope you enjoy this upcoming episode of Edinburgh Business Stories. A big thank you to Rathbones for partnering with us on this episode. Rathbones. Invest well, live well. Eric, thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Okay, so my name's Eric O'Donnell. I'm the MD at Sports Labs. Sports Labs as a company is a very niche company. Not many people have probably heard about what we do. We like to brand ourselves as a testing for sports technology, but we're grounded very much in sports surfaces, and that's where we started the business, really. But nowadays we're doing all sorts of things. We're testing footballs and we're testing goal structures and all the other infrastructure that goes with sports. So the company's really developed since we started. We also have a professional services arm to our business. So we design facilities, mostly outdoor pitches, tracks. We do indoor flooring for basketball and various other sports like that, tennis. So there's a few parts to the business that are, they're complementary, but they're very different in terms of what they deliver.
Amazing. So take us back. How do you end up in this world? What's your journey to here?
Yeah, it's an interesting start. I worked for basically testing companies since I was 17. So when I left school, I got involved in testing concrete bridges and highways and all that sort of stuff. So I do enjoy testing and and learning about materials. So that's what my grounding was. The sort of latter part of my career with that company, we started to dabble in testing sports surfaces. And it really came about because of my civil engineering background. So we got called to a job in Bathgate, which it was an artificial pitch. Sports Scotland funded it. It was a very expensive facility, but it was basically a swimming pool. So they'd put an artificial pitch down and it wasn't draining. So they asked me to go in and dig a few holes in this pitch and work out why it wasn't draining. And it was clear to me that it was the base of the pitch that wasn't draining, not the artificial surface. So this ended up in court and we won the case. And that company, who are no longer with us, unfortunately, they thought this is such a good outcome that we're going to employ my company to do every single facility they are doing in the UK. So we immediately got drafted into all these jobs from this one sort of litigation case, if you like. So we were not experts in artificial surfaces. We were experts in the base and the civil engineering side. But very quickly we had to learn about, artificial turf, shock pads, all the things that go with, all the paraphernalia that goes with it. So that's how we really got started. We got acquired by another company. So a new management team came in. I was given the job of running the Glasgow branch of this company. And very quickly, I decided that, I'm not going to make much money doing this job for this company. It was a very difficult job, but the sports side of it was doing very well at that point. So I said to my boss, let me do this specialist job with the sports surfaces, and I guarantee I'll make more money than the whole company up here, the branch, is making. And he said no. So I said, okay, I'm leaving and I'm going to set up Sports Labs. Right. And I'm going to give this a go because I can see maybe a trend, an upward trajectory where this could be quite a good little business, So I spoke to a couple of my colleagues and took them with me. The best laugh there was that they had a 1 month's notice period and I had a 6 months notice period. So they left and set up the company while I was still working for the other company and cleaning up all the various things that I needed to clean up. But after about 3 months, I think we managed to agree that, they were fed up with me. So they let me go. And that was the start of Sports Labs and 28 years ago.
Right.
So that's how we got going.
And so it's 1998, and you're based where?
We're now based in Livingston. We started in South Lanarkshire and then in North Lanarkshire.
Yeah.
And the reason we started there is because we got some funding from the local authorities just to do basic stuff, and that was very helpful at the time.
And in terms of your reach now, though, from Livingston base, where do you touch?
So we're on a few continents. We're 4 continents. We have branches. We call them satellites, and we have branches. So the satellites are where we can't have a lab because there isn't the need to have a lab. And the branches are where we have a lab like the one in Livingston. Yep. So we have offices or labs in Italy, in the Netherlands, in the USA, and in France. Mm-hmm. And then we have staff who work from home with a full set of equipment in Scandinavia, so Norway, Sweden, Turkey. You can't work in Turkey unless you've got a Turkish person, as we quickly learned.
Okay.
And then we have a need to have people in other territories, like we've had staff in Morocco for a couple of years because there was a government funding programme there to deliver a lot of the stuff we do. So we had staff there for a couple of years. So that's how it works generally.
This episode of Edinburgh Business Stories is brought to you by Rathbones. Rathbones is one of the UK's leading wealth managers with an office right here in the city of Edinburgh. They have a long history of helping people plan and invest for the future they want, and believe there's one word you should live by: well. Well learned, well invested, well timed. Maybe you're scaling a business or climbing the career ladder, and you're earning bonuses, dividends, and a significant salary. Success is rewarding, but it often leaves you time poor. Rathbones understand the demands of business ownership and professional careers, because when you plan well, you can grow well, live well, and sleep well. Wherever you are on your wealth journey, Rathbones can help you go further, and they do it all well. To learn more, visit rathbones.link/EBS. Rathbones, invest well, live well. When you invest, your capital is at risk.
Okay, and again, just for again anyone listening in, so that you've got the surfaces. Because I initially kind of went, before we kind of got to chat about this, I was thinking it was artificial turf, but it's more than that. It's anything with a ball and a surface.
Mainly. So the governing bodies have their standards.
Yes,
and the standards are there for safety mainly, and then for surface interaction as well. So whether it's a ball or foot or whatever, so they have these standards. FIFA, UEFA, FIBA, the basketball standards. So they all have these regulations, and what we're an accredited laboratory. Yep. So we're given permission by the governing body to provide a service, which basically ultimately issues a certificate for a product. So a piece of artificial turf is a product. A piece of flooring for basketball is a product, and we certify that product to that standard. Yep. So you're right. We have all sorts of surfaces going through the laboratory. We do a lot of flooring, vinyl and wood flooring, which is mainly for basketball or tennis or even indoor hockey. A lot of artificial turf for rugby, tennis and football. Yeah. But we also get other materials in. So we have the sub-layers that go underneath the artificial turf. Things like, they're called shock pads. And what they do is they help to attenuate the shock of a player either striking the surface with a heel or falling over and shoulder or head impacts. And that's the system. That's the system that's built up, and that really is very much in flooring or in artificial turf. So it's a lot of things going on there.
And so you're effectively writing then the standards for some of these governing bodies.
Yeah. So some of them have technical advisory groups, so we're part of that.
Yep.
And so there's a number of accredited labs or consultants that are on these groups. Yeah. So we're feeding into a standard as part of that. Or like in the instance with FIBA or the International Handball Association, they came to us direct and said, can you write the standard for all the different products that they want to have a certificate for?
Yeah.
They're like licensing schemes because they can make money. The governing body can say, I'm going to charge you a certain fee for a certificate for a basketball or scoreboard or whatever it is. So they have these licensing schemes.
So to bring it to life then, can you give us some examples of the kind of things that you might be testing and, how that applies in the sport itself.
Yeah, so I mean, if you've got a sliding scale here. So you've got Olympic Games. So you can imagine in the Olympic Games, there's quite a lot of different surfaces that need to be inspected and tested. Because you've got potentially world records being set. You've got these very, very elite athletes running about on these surfaces or falling on these surfaces. And if they get injured and it's something to do with the surface, the lawsuits could be considerable. So we're testing Olympic game venues. So we've done a few. We've been in Japan. We've done some Commonwealth Games venues with Birmingham and Glasgow. So that's one end of the spectrum. And then the other end of the spectrum is you go to somewhere like Montrose Football Club, right? So a League One football club, and it's got an artificial pitch as its main playing surface. The rules of football say if you have an artificial pitch in your stadium, it has to be tested to a FIFA standard. So the little enclave up at Montrose has to comply with a very, very high global standard. So we'll go up to Montrose and we'll test that surface, and it has to pass the test. If it doesn't pass the test, Scottish football will sanction Montrose. And sanctions are things like deducting points, fining them, or making them play all their home matches away until the surface meets the standard. So at the moment, there's no such standard for Ibrox or for Celtic Park because it's grass. You see, so that's changing as that is evolving. But so Montrose is a heavily regulated surface, where Ibrox is not a heavily regulated surface. So the chairman of these clubs are very aware of that, and you can imagine the lobbying that's going on. Because a testing fee for Montrose is expensive.
I was going to say, is it financially onerous for them to get up to that standard, or?
We think it's very good value for money, right? Obviously. But these clubs are, a hospitality day for Montrose will be 20 grand. For Ibrox, it's, eye-wateringly a lot more than that, So if they have to pay 2 or 3 grand for a test, that's a lot of money for them, So there's that's being addressed, shall we say. So watch this space.
And you also mentioned about like whistles as well in basketball. That was an earlier example off camera. That's quite a useful one.
We talked about, the FIBA standard was quite an interesting one. So the FIBA decided that they wanted to have these licensing schemes for products. And we thought, well, it'll just be the floor. So that's fine. Bouncing a basketball. It's also about shock absorption for the athlete, so we can measure all of that. That's absolutely fine. But no, they were diving deep into the subject. So they turned up with these whistles, and we didn't know that the whistle activated the scoreboard. We were totally clueless about that. But apparently, the whistle will activate the scoreboard to stop the clock, basically. So it has to have a certain intonation to do that. And there's a sort of bandwidth of intonation that works, and then if it's too high or too low, it doesn't work. So we had to work out how to invent a test that would test the whistles. So there's conventions for this in other sports, right? So we're not like starting from absolute scratch. So we had to build this acoustic chamber. It didn't need to be an acoustic room. It was a long chamber with scoreboard at one end. With a acoustic meter and the whistle at the other. And we're basically sticking our head in this acoustic chamber and blowing the whistle to see if it activates the scoreboard. And also it's got the right intonation. So we developed that test, and then we wrote up the standard, and that was just one of many standards, I can assure you. And then that standard was approved by FIBA. And then it goes into their book of standards. So if you want to have a certificate, a certified whistle to FIBA standards, it has to be tested by one of their approved labs. They've got a few labs now. We're not just the only ones that do it. There's probably half a dozen globally that can do the testing now. So
And how does so FIBA is obviously the international
Basketball
Federation. Right. But how do they get in touch with someone like you in Livingston? I'm curious about that.
So we've always tested the floors. Well, always, from the early 2000s, we were supporting their program for measuring the performance of basketball flooring.
But even before that, how did they hear about you?
So we're not like, we don't just stay in Livingston and like put our woolly hats on. What we do is we go out and we go looking for things.
Yeah.
So very quickly when we set up the business, we were fighting for a position, because not only is it a niche business, but there was only 1 or 2 labs globally doing what we were doing, because there wasn't enough business around when we first started. So what I had to do, I'm the sort of, if you like, marketing, business orientated part of the business.
Yeah.
My colleague, Richard, who, equally could be doing this podcast, is the technical guy.
Yeah.
And, we've been married for 40 years.
Yeah.
And we're completely separate and different. And that's how it's worked.
Yeah.
He does the nuts and bolts, and I do the go and get that and talk to these people.
Right.
So I offered myself to do presentations, lectures, go and see governing bodies and sit on their doorstep until they seen me. They actually gave me a time to speak to them, and just did the hard graft really to try and get our name out there, and we were fortunately well received. Because there wasn't that many labs at the time doing this sort of stuff, and we were also very, very proactive about taking on a new venture. So when FIBA comes, we're never going, it's going to cost you a fortune. It's like, how are we going to do this, guys? Let's find a way of doing this, and we'll worry about the costs, because there's always the end result for these things for us is there's usually a revenue stream in it somewhere. Whether we sell the equipment that we make, whether we sell the test that we do, or we sell the expertise, there's usually some sort of dividend at the end of it. It might take a few years to come through, but you've just got to have the vision to say, you know what, we're going to stick this out, and it'll come good at the end. And 9 times out of 10, that's worked in our favour. So, we've been lucky. There's absolutely, totally lucky, but also just being a little bit, astute and hedging things. And also, you can work out which governing bodies are really want to do some work and maybe push technology or push their sport forward, So we try and get on board with that.
It's interesting because when we spoke earlier, I was quite impressed by the kind of the breadth of stuff that you're involved in, from testing surfaces to balls to the hoops in the basketball. It's like, how do you manage to do all that? Because it seems quite varied.
Well, obviously the lab is now, it used to be a sports surfaces testing lab, and the kit was all, bash that's slippy, this thing just breaks when you pull it apart. It's all mechanical testing. But we've got a small R&D department, which we set up about sort of 2015. Again, on the back of sort of like, we need to be ahead of this. We were following some of the other companies, and that really annoyed me, because some of the equipment we were using were like, this is absolute rubbish. We could do a better job. Why are we not doing a better job? Because we haven't got any R&D department to develop stuff. So we set up an R&D department. We're really lucky with the people. We usually go Strathclyde University. We take on sports technology or mechanical engineers, and we got them in, and they're young people who are really hungry to do stuff. Can you do that? Yeah, we'll give it a bash. And what always amazes me is that you see a CAD drawing for a bit of equipment that we're developing, and then you go back and they've 3D printed bits of it and they're testing it out, and then you go back later and they've built a bit of equipment and they press the button and it starts working, and you're like, that's amazing, And then we actually start using it for testing, and it's generating revenue. It's just an amazing process that these young people, so it gives you a bit of faith in humanity, actually, because graduates have get a bad rap these days, don't they? That they can come in and adapt and develop stuff and follow programs, stick to budget and invent stuff that's really cool at the end of the day. So that's part of the equation, is having the ability to develop stuff in-house. And what we've done is we've set up a little network around Livingston of specialist companies who can supply specialist machining technology, 3D printing technology, motherboard build motherboards for us and, put the chips and all that on these motherboards, and then it's wireless, Bluetooth, whatever. So, and they're all in Livingston. And we're not having to go to, China or somewhere else to get the technology in. It's local companies. And that's the same for some of the software that we're involved in developing as well. We've tried to use local companies as much as we can. Varied success, but it's a lot easier to go and see somebody that's 10 minutes away from your office and say, we need to get this fixed because it's causing a lot of problems, than do a Teams call with somebody in another country,
And how have these companies kind of come about then? Is it just...
Some of them are like little startups. So people have been working for maybe big companies in Livingston. The company's closed down and have maybe acquired a bit of equipment. Certainly the machining, the mechanical engineering guy who does a lot of our very precise machining, he acquired some of the equipment from the company he worked for.
Right.
And he's got a big, garage. He's set up a sort of workshop in his garage. So that sort of thing. And then there's other companies that are just like small companies. They've always been doing this. And then we go along and say, could you possibly help us with this? You're sort of doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
You're making motherboards for something else, a music device.
Yeah.
But surely you can make a motherboard that would work with our shock absorption device. And they go away and look at it and, start a relationship.
Yeah.
And some of these relations, like Robin, who does the machining, it's 25 years we've been working with Robin.
Is that really? Yeah.
He's almost an employee. He comes in, makes himself a cup of coffee, chats to everybody he knows him. It's one of these sort of, it's great, because if you want something, if you need him to do something quick, or he needs to work late, or it's urgent, he'll do it, And that's what we need.
So from local to international, you've probably traveled the world and seen some crazy things. What have been some of the highlight, places you've been and things you've done there?
Yeah, it's been really lucky. That's there's a downside to traveling, and especially now, but and that's the disruption to your family life and all the rest of it. But the highlights are you do see some really cool countries, and I think one year our team were in over 40 countries in that year. So visiting and doing work in 40 countries. But we certainly, we've been in Asia, which was great. So China, Japan, North Korea, a few other countries. And they, fascinating to work in these places and working with other companies that do what we do. Completely different approach to what we do. Africa's been great as well. I loved working in Africa, South Africa particularly. Amazing country. It really, the opportunities there are huge. It's just the way it's maybe being run. It's not helping that develop. But we had a great opportunity to work with the 2010 World Cup legacy program. So there's always a dividend after World Cup. They give the local federation a dividend, millions of rand, as it were, in their case. And the local federation decided to invest in communities. And what they wanted to do was build artificial pitches, ironically. For us, it was great. So we were working down there anyway. We had a joint venture with the University of Johannesburg, and we were selected to deliver this program for them. So we had an amazing experience working with local communities, because part of the contract with the federation was that you had to employ local people to build the pitches. So when they were maybe making the drainage trenches or laying the sub base for the foundations of the pitch, it was all local community people who were doing it. Mostly women, I have to say. They do all the work, and the guys wait to get the money so they can go to the shebeen, which is basically an illicit bar. And we saw a lot of that. So, as soon as it came to 4 o'clock, and because they get paid daily, because they won't turn up otherwise, the guys were all over the wall, straight to the shebeen, and the poor women were away feeding the kids and all the rest of it. But very, very hard-working and, amazing facilities in these rural areas. So we got to see places in Africa you wouldn't go for a holiday, put it that way, Sometimes we were sitting there and, I used to get the guys to help me do the testing. So there would be a lot of staff on a site because when you employ the community, you employ the community. So you might need one person, but you've got 10. So that's fine, because they're only getting paid a small amount of money. So I'll have all these 10 guys working with me. And at lunchtime, you would go, right, go and get some food. So give them a bit of money, go away and usually get big sort of like wraps. And then they loved fizzy drinks. So they used to buy like lemonade or Coca-Cola, huge bottles of it. And they would sit on buckets and we would eat the wraps, dry wraps, and drink the juice. And then they would start singing. And they would use the buckets to put the beer out. And I'm sitting in the middle of this group of guys. Don't know what they're saying, but it's just an amazing experience, you know.
Oh, great.
So I've got some really cool photographs of these guys, you know, helping me out and then having these lunches, which were amazing. So great. Stuff like that. You'll never forget that sort of stuff. You know, that was really cool.
And so what, in terms of the 28 years of Sports Labs then, what are some of the highs and I guess the low points as well that you've maybe experienced?
Yeah, I think that you know, so creating a sustainable business is difficult, especially what we were trying to do. So it took about 3 years before we could actually sort of almost take a salary, if you know what I mean. So you're running on fresh air. And the kicker for us was that, you know, once the rules of football changed, that gave us an opportunity to start doing proper business and then traveling as well. So the rules of football changed in 2001, and they endorsed, FIFA endorsed artificial turf.
Right.
And it could be used for any game apart from a World Cup. So stadiums, you know, every sort of level of the game could use an artificial turf surface for football. So
apart from a World Cup, is that right? Is that still the case?
Yeah, it's still the case.
Right,
You'll never see a World Cup game. You'll see qualifying games.
Right, okay.
And I've got a story about that, which I'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, good.
But never in a World Cup, because you don't need it. You know, there's, like, I may earn my living from artificial turf and all the rest of it, but actually, you know, a great grass pitch is the best pitch to play on for football and for rugby and things like that. But artificial turf, you know, serves a purpose. It gives you capacity. It's safe. You know what you're getting. You know, so basically, once the rules changed, we were able to not only look out with Scotland, out with the UK for business, but there was much more a willingness to put these surfaces down. So clients, you know, schools, colleges, universities, clubs started looking at it as a way of maybe earning revenue and also, you know, cutting down their land management requirements, because you can get sort of 20 to 30 times more use out of an artificial pitch than you will out of grass. So you can imagine if you've got 10 grass pitches, you really only need one artificial pitch to provide the same capacity. So that's when it changed. And the accreditations have been really important, getting, you know, World Rugby accreditation, World Athletics, tennis, FIBA, basketball. All of these milestones have been really important because it's given us another avenue to generate revenue. But I think, you know, so they would be the important parts to our business. Highlights, I think, things like, you know, starting to work with UEFA and delivering things like Champions League programs from qualifiers right through the final have been amazing as well. Working with some of the Olympic local organising committees in London, in Japan, you know, in places like that, that's been also amazing to do. To just get the insight on, you know, what goes on with these competitions. And even the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, you wouldn't believe what the background stuff that goes on with the venues, because the venues are all public facilities. So we have to go and audit them all before they are converted into world-class facilities for the games. And then after the games, they've got to be audited again, because they've got to be reinstated back to the public service level. And, you know, if there's a lot of damage done, which often there is, or things happen, you know, that's all got to be accounted for. So we get involved in all of that as well.
And what about some of the low points?
Yeah, it's been a few. Sometimes things like, you know, key staff leaving that have hurt us. That's been difficult, especially if worked with them for a long time. I mean, I'm really lucky. I've worked with Richard for 40 years. Another guy called Sean who works for us 25 years. We've had our first retirement out of Sports Labs.
Right.
George, bless him, has left.
Right.
He retired at the turn of the year.
Yeah.
I never thought George would retire before me. Yeah. Comes in after his Christmas holidays with a letter and says, I'm off.
Oh, wow.
I was devastated. I've been working with him for so long. But yeah, they're difficult things. There's been times where we've had to defend ourselves as well. And, where we've been threatened with lawsuits and litigation. And that's cost us a lot of money, but also the stress and strain of that. Not in the UK, but in America particularly, we had issues over there. You just got to man up and defend yourself, So yeah, difficult times. But generally, I get up in the morning and I'm pretty enthusiastic about what I do. I'm a glass half full guy. And I very rarely get up in the morning and think, it's a bad one today.
Yeah.
This is going to be difficult, I really like what I do. I'm looking forward to retiring, but that's because I'm worn out. It's not because I've lost my enthusiasm. But yeah, I mean, it's a great business to be in because look, I've got World Cup tickets for the Scotland games. So what's not to like about that? I bet you've not got them.
Thank you.
So, and I haven't got any spare ones, by the way, before you ask. They were hard to get and expensive.
But on that basis then, so okay, here's a business of your founding and creation. You've built it, but you're now talking about retirement. So actually, the whole idea of that continuing after you've left, that's no small feat to get to that point. No, how have you done it?
We want a legacy. I mean, like myself and Richard, my partner, we want the business to continue. We want it to grow, and it will grow. Regulation is not going backwards. It's the environmental stuff will be the next big ticket item for us to deal with. Microplastics and chemicals and stuff like that. So we'll have to address that in the coming years. But I think I'm thinking about retirement because you've got to make room for other people as well. And if I've done my bit and I'm I can be a consultant, that horrible term. I will just be an advisor or consultant. You'll see me once a week. I'll just rock up at 10 o'clock and leave at 2, That's what consultants do, don't they? But, I don't need to be there every day. I've got a great team. My team are really, they can take all the load off me. And, I can do the good stuff. Yeah. I can go to that Mauritius trip where there's a pitch to be tested and just stand and go, I'll help you out. But I can't actually do the testing now because it's moved on so far that I don't know how to do it anymore. But I don't pull rank on people. But potentially that's what I could do. I could take a back seat and let the young guys take it on, and take it forward.
One thing that might be quite helpful for other people listening into this is almost that idea of what's the last hat that that you're wearing in your business. You'll have done lots of things, but there's one bit that you're still wearing. What would that be?
So as an MD of a business, you're a lot of stuff lands on my desk that is not the best stuff, right? So HR and there's a big part of it because we've got 85 staff now. We started with 3, got to 85 in a niche business. It's not too bad, but a lot of that. And then just making sure that the business is running efficiently and the branches are all doing the right thing and we're all harmonised because you've got a branch in the Netherlands, a branch in Italy, they do like to do their own thing and they might go off in a different direction. We just need to make sure we're all, sticking to the brand and having a consistent approach to things. But I do a lot of, I'm on the board of the ESTC, which is the European Synthetic Turf Council. So I'll spend a lot of time on sort of European-wide issues, trying to defend the industry as part of that board. I'm part of the technical advisory group in FIFA and also with World Rugby. So when they do meet fairly regularly. I'm also in a lot of working groups which are dealing with issues that the industry is facing. Like I mentioned, microplastics is an issue. So we have a working group for that, which is a European working group. So we meet regularly, discuss how we are going to put out our information into the marketplace and how we can defend the industry. So stuff like that. So I'm involved in a lot of that.
Yeah. And is that something you would continue into retirement as a consultant, or would you have someone effectively come in and to replace you from within the team?
Yeah, my ambition would be to bring somebody in. There's a natural sort of tenure on these boards, so it's 2 or 4 years. The working group's different, and the technical advisory group, I'd probably drop off of them and let the staff that are working on it day to day deal with all that stuff. But the boards, I'm a huge advocate of the industry, so I want to defend what we're doing, and put out positive messages if I can. So that's really where I see a continuing role for me. And I'd like to do it as part of Sports Labs. We want to keep the name out there, and people they know I'm Sports Labs when they see me. And next year if I'm not Sports Labs, I still want to be known as Sports Labs. So and I do want the guys to take on the reins, and they're stepping up to the mark. As I say, I've got a great team. I'm really lucky. So.
Eric, we ask all our guests, what is your guiding principle in business?
Well, I've had a few interesting bosses over the time, and most of the time it's been about integrity, so we are selling certificates which say, yes, that's passed or failed. And you can imagine when some of our clients would say, well, can you just change that? Make it pass and then everything will be all right. But that never happens in our business. So we've got to be whiter than white. And we've stood on that principle since day one. And that was driven into me by when I first started work. Because I was in a testing lab, it was all about, you've got to do it right. Otherwise, you're doing it again, So that's having integrity is one thing. And also with working with a lot of people, and especially technical people, you've just got to be fair and reasonable with people. You have to be, you've got to take on some of their perspective and just be fair and reasonable. And I think we've done that, and I think that's why we've got long-serving staff. We've got quite a young team now. We've always refreshed, especially in the laboratory or in the field side where we go out and visit sites and do testing. And we get all these graduates in. We get people from West Lothian, and we'll train them, and they go out, and they're 7 or 8 years have been with us now. It's great to see that, and they're good quality jobs, I would say, what we do, what we provide, and and they get a good background in training, and we've lost a few to other companies, competitors, whatever, but you're always training people for the next job, aren't you? Really, at the end of the day, we don't have a problem with that, really.
Amazing.
Sorry, I'm just curious. The people that you've got coming in, so the 85 that you've got, are they all interested in sport, or actually are some of them, look, sport's not interesting, it's the science part or the technical bit?
Good question. So you know how to create policies for things. Like in a business, you have a policy for that. It's bad weather. Oh, we've got a bad weather policy now. Yeah, so we've done all of that.
Right.
So we've got an elite athlete policy. Right. So if we get an elite athlete coming into our business, which is possible,
right,
and then they need more time off, they travel, they need maybe funding. So we've had to create a policy in our business for the potential of having an elite athlete. We've got elite referees. We've not got elite athletes. We've got an elite referee. Yeah.
Right.
So we've created this policy, and we do get a lot of sports orientated people.
Yeah.
A lot of them are football, I have to say. We have had a few other sports. Golf's a big one with some of the guys. But a lot of them have got a football, a passion or a rugby passion or something like that. And some of the guys just love it. When they go around, say we do the goal line technology calibrations for the Bundesliga. So they go to all the top stadiums in Germany in the summer and test the goal line technology. And we take a fair number of graduates with us. So the way we do it is we take them in, we try and suss them out over the summer.
Yeah.
And if they're any good, we'll offer them a job. And that's the way you sort of get to know somebody a bit better, you know. So they'll go to all these stadiums, you know, in Munich and Frankfurt, or, you know, all the famous football clubs. And they just love it, you know.
I bet they do.
It's just like a busman's holiday, really, when we do that sort of stuff. So, and, you know, they can see what we do. And it's hard work, don't get me wrong. We burn people out sometimes by the travel. You know, they travel so much, they're away from home so much that they do get burned out. And, you know, it's not for everybody. But fortunately, there's some people that quite enjoy that life, you know.
Last question then. What's your favourite stadium in the world then, and why?
Yeah, we're running that competition at the moment. You must have been looking at our Twitter feed.
No, genuinely not.
Well, my favourite stadium is in North Korea, believe it or not. Because I'm probably one of the few people that have been there to see it. So this is a story I was going to tell you. Yeah. So we got this gig from FIFA actually to say, we need somebody to go and test this pitch in North Korea. So, you know, the usual all round the staff, who's going to do it? Nobody's wanted to do it. So eventually it got up to my desk and I thought, I quite fancy North Korea. That's it. So let's go to North Korea.
I've never heard anyone say that before, by the way.
I quite fancy it. Why not? I might meet King Yong-un, if that's how you pronounce it. So anyway, we ended up organising this trip, and there was a few other things we were doing. We were going to China, meeting a few labs and clients and whatever. So we went to North Korea. And there's this story could take a long time, but we'll cut to the chase. North Korea, and I think we're playing Saudi in a World Cup qualifier, and the pitch has to be obviously certified, and it wasn't. So we landed in North Korea, went to this stadium, 155,000 seater stadium.
Oh my Lord.
So we went up to the top of the seats, and literally the pitch was the size of a postage stamp. It was tiny. And how you could watch a match of football up there, I don't know. But obviously the stadium's used for military exercises, for, you know, marching and all these parades they have and all that sort of stuff. So the pitch was pretty dreadful, to be honest. It was flat as a pancake. And myself and Keith were like, as soon as we rocked up, we were like, this is never going to pass any test. You know, it's going to have a serious bit of maintenance. So we had to stay. So we had to stay for the best part of a week and try and get this pitch back up to some sort of standard that could be certified. And there's 200 people in that stadium basically helping us to get that pitch up to standard with small garden rakes pulling the turf up.
Wow.
But yeah, that was an amazing trip in terms of just the culture shock and our inability to do anything without having a minder. Your phones don't work, your computer doesn't work, you've got somebody with you 24/7, well, apart from when you're sleeping. You've got a minder. They were paranoid about having Westerners there, you know.
I tell you what, I don't fancy being the guy going to North Korea and not signing something off. You know?
Well, no, but I think the last gasp, we actually got the thing to pass.
Yeah.
We weren't getting out of that country if we didn't. There was no way, you know. We were stuck there forever. Because they take your passports when you arrive. You've not got your passport.
Oh my Lord.
And they also look at your mobile phone without you giving them any passwords and your computers. I've never seen anybody open a mobile phone as quickly as the wee guy at the airport. You know, plugged it in, a couple of taps, and then he was looking at my photographs just immediately. Wow. They weren't bothered about anything else. I think they thought we might have had videos, like North Korea videos or something like that. I don't know what they thought, but they never told us anyway. We just said, have a look. There's nothing on there that's of any concern to you, apart from pictures of my dogs, you know. So
that's your favourite one. So why specifically then?
It was just an amazing experience. Yeah, going there and the size of the stadium. I mean, why would you have a 155-seater stadium? Just they had to have the biggest stadium in the world. That's what they wanted, and just the where it was located. You know, it's very iconic, albeit a bit run down. The maintenance is not a big part of what they do over there. Just the whole sort of experience. That's why it's definitely my favourite one.
All right.
So yeah.
I was hoping you'd say Tynecastle.
Nah, nothing. I mean, I've been in some of the US stadiums are great, but yeah, they're American football. They're NFL stadiums.
Not interested.
No, I'm not interested. Rugby or football would be my favourite. So
there you go. Very good. Great, Eric. Thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and we wish you all the luck in the future.
yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Edinburgh Business Stories. If you found it useful or inspiring, please do subscribe and follow along for more conversations just like this. And why not share it with your friends too, so that more people can hear these inspiring stories. We'd also love it if you could rate and review this podcast wherever you're listening. This helps more people to find us and ensures that we can keep bringing you these stories for years to come. And if there's someone you think that we should speak to, let us know. We're always looking for great stories to share. You can email us at edinburgh@businessstories.co.uk. And as always, a big thank you to Rathbones for partnering with us on this episode. Rathbones. Invest well, live well.